Hello and good day, everyone. Welcome to our Smart Webinar series for today's webinar, Ensuring a Successful CRM Adoption. This webinar presentation will be 30 minutes, followed by any questions you have. We'll have a Q&A session at the very end. Before we get started, just a few house cleaning items. I'd like to go over a few pieces on how to participate in today's event. We've taken a screenshot example, as you can see right now, of the attendee interface. You should see something that looks like this on your own computer desktop in the upper right-hand corner. You're listening you're in listening only mode right now, so you can use your computer speaker system by default. If you prefer to join over the phone, just select the upper right corner, and then you can select telephone in the audio panel, and the dial information will be displayed. You'll have the opportunity again to submit text questions to today's presenter by typing your questions in the questions pane of your control panel. You may send your questions in at any time during the presentation. We will collect these and we'll address them during the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. And just a quick note, in this presentation, we'll have a few interactive poll questions. So definitely make sure once we get to those prompts in the slides, only 3 questions regarding your current CRM adoption. So we definitely want to take a little bit of time to let you answer those poll questions in the middle of our presentation. So for now, I would like to introduce our presenter from Continuum CRM, Kristen Hambleton. Kristen is the Vice President of Business Development for Continuum CRM. She began her career in senior living in 2010 as a Director of Sales for a multi-site CCRC. Her strengths in leveraging the CRM data for strategic planning, coaching her sales team to success, and improving processes within the organization led her to her current role. Kristen's passion in assisting other marketing and sales teams in becoming more effective in their role using their CRM. And for now, I will go ahead and Kristen, you can go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, everybody, for attending, and I hope that you find the information today valuable. Just to start out with a bit of an overview of what we're going to be talking about today. And this is really about user adoption, right? And in order to get a high user adoption of your CRM, a number of things have to work in tandem together. So we're going to talk about why user adoption is important, how you can get a high user adoption rate with your system, what's management's role in ensuring high user adoption and usage of the CRM in an ongoing capacity, how training impacts and plays a part in your adoption, and how the user experience you create really has the most impact on whether or not your users adopt the new CRM system, or perhaps even an old CRM system. So the first poll question that we're going to be looking at is, what is your current CRM status? So either you're not looking, you're searching immediately, maybe you're planning for next year or in the future, or maybe you just purchased a new CRM and you're getting ready to implement it now. So we're going to take just about 20 seconds or so. Paul, just let me know when you've closed the poll and we can display the results for us.
Great. We'll give you guys another 15 seconds to answer. So far, we have about 40% who have voted, 60%. 80%. All right, so the results, looks like we have 75% currently are not looking, but 25% of the attendees are planning for the next year.
Okay, and that's great. And that's important because implementing a new CRM today really takes a good deal of time. You want to make sure that you do your due diligence. So part of this presentation today in user adoption involves due diligence in planning and making sure that when you are looking for a new system, that you are taking the time to do all of the right steps ahead of time, so you have high user adoption at the end. So moving on to why user adoption is important, right? You know, you have perhaps legacy CRM systems right now that maybe your users never even fully adopted or leveraged the technology that they currently have. And you're considering something new for the future, or maybe you're keeping the one that you have, but you want to get better usage out of it, right? You want to have your people use it better. So why user adoption is important, you need to convey this to your users, why it's so important for them to do that, because the reality is today CRMs are far more than just a tool to record interactions with our prospects. We can use an Excel spreadsheet or a pen and paper to write down our notes with our phone calls with the people we've talked to. We can send emails through Outlook. You don't have to have a CRM to do those things. What your CRM does for you today, though, is it kind of becomes the whole hub of your marketing and sales. And when you have user adoption and when your people are leveraging the tool that they're given, it's going to do several things for you. First, with data collection, right? It's important today to gather information. We live in a digital world. Everybody's profile is online. You have an online footprint, right? So we need to have data collection in order to give more transparency to our marketing teams, so that way they can do a better job, or significantly increase our qualified lead generation through the purchase of relevant mailing lists, right? If we're diligent about tracking our demographics and our psychographics, we can put out better content marketing. We can have better search engine marketing. We can have better search engine optimization. And a lot of this stems from what the salespeople are inputting into the CRM and the results through reporting that your marketing team is pulling out. We can also help improve operations, right? So the more information you're putting in about your prospect in the database, the more you can supply and tell a story to operations about the type of people who are moving into your community. This can help with things like dining, resident programming, right? Policies. You can influence those things through your data collection, right? And all of this information leads into strategy. It affects your marketing strategy. Who are you going to target? What's working for your team? What isn't working in your marketing strategies? Where are your biggest inquiry sources coming from, and how soon or how fast are those sources converting to residents, right? Because your marketing team is probably going to want to invest more of their marketing dollars in those strategies that are working. So the more information that you're putting into the system, the more transparency you're going to be able to give, and the more strategic decisions you'll be able to make, as opposed to making decisions based on a shotgun approach. CRMs today also manage and track your inventory or your census, right? And you can see what's going on with your units. You can provide this information to your leadership team and drive and influence construction and renovations. You can extract detailed information if you have it available to you in your CRM about what are your most popular residences, what size works, what types of amenities are in those apartments, or design features, which ones have your longest waiting lists. You can share this information and be a complete influencer on the construction and renovation strategy. Employee motivation. So this is kind of a big one when it comes to user adoption. And if your employees are given a tool that they've had input in, and one that helps them do their job easier, it's going to increase the likelihood that they'll leverage the technology fully. And helping them understand from the very beginning how the collection of the information impacts all of the decision making, they're going to hold themselves more accountable for being thorough in inputting data. Also, the last thing why it's important is it protects your investment. CRM tools today are truly an investment in marketing and sales. It's not something that you just purchase and you end up with something that you own. So as we move on to how to get user adoption, right? We want to talk about this in terms of top-down support, because that is vital for getting your user adoption. Creating a user-friendly configuration, thorough training, and then encouraging and leveraging the technology that is delivered to your team. So we're going to go through each of those individually. Top-down support, management's role, and really the user adoption is driven by your management team. So many times in the past, what has happened is management has delivered a tool to the sales and marketing team, said, here you go, it's yours to use, and then they don't even know how to use it themselves. If you want better user adoption, it goes back to the simple mantra of lead by example, right? If you know how to use the system, if you leverage the system yourself, and if you reinforce that system and the use of it with your team, you're going to get better user adoption. So let's talk about the different roles that management has. First of all, they're there to drive the project. Their role is to help in the selection process and define the KPIs that are important to the organization and the team, so that way you know exactly what it is that you want to track in your CRM. A good CRM is built in mind with what do you want to get out of it at the end, and then you work backwards in developing and creating the CRM for you. So the design of the CRM comes into play with your KPIs. They also need to be involved in the implementation and the training. Your management team needs to take an active role in the implementation of this new tool for you. It's really also important for them to use the CRM. CRMs today, like ours, encourage sales coaching. And what they do is they bring along a lot of transparency and ability to drill down and dive deep into information very quickly, where you can have a different type of conversation. And it's not just coaching, you didn't do your tours for the week. It brings a new level of conversation with your team, how to move that buyer through the next step of the journey. Where are your prospects stuck in the process, and how can we work together to get those people unstuck? They also should be using the CRM to, again, look at their marketing strategy, provide executive reporting, give the leadership team the insights that you're driving through the collection of the data. And they also need to go through reinforcement, do regular training, update on any changes in the system that they have made, and also give feedback to their CRM partners on continuous improvement of the tool that they've been delivered. So involving the team, that is a big one to start out when you are first looking for a new CRM tool. Involving the team gives them buy-in to the change. Change is difficult for everyone. We like what we're used to. I have been in the senior living industry a really long time, and I can't tell you how many countless times I've heard, both in the community and in the CRM space, well, this is how we've always done it. This is how it's worked in the past. Our world is changing digitally. The rules of engagement with prospects have changed. The way that we nurture leads has changed. And so what we want to do is really bring our team together to talk about how are they currently using the tool that they have, what tools do we need to give them to increase their effectiveness, what do they want to see out of a new system that would really help them do their jobs, and have the conversation of what can we do to streamline our processes for you. We'll talk later about integrations, but that is part of this streamlining process conversation, right? Your CRMs should be able to integrate with other systems to streamline your processes and help make the lives of your salespeople and your marketing people and your move-in coordinators much easier than they used to be in the past. The other thing that the manager is responsible for and should drive is your project implementation and data migration. I can tell you that with Continuum CRM, we have a very methodical and structured project plan. We utilize Microsoft Project. We deliver that to our clients. We set it up front in the kickoff meeting. And so everybody on the project team understands what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, when are the results going to be delivered, when is the rollout, when is the kickoff, when is the training. So there's no question as to what's going on with your new CRM project and the investment that you've made. You should work with a CRM vendor who can coordinate and manage your project for you. One of the other things that we also consult in is workflow consultation. CRMs today, especially ours, has built-in workflows that are driven and constructed with you that conform to your culture. And the data migration. So that is often the biggest fear and driver of people to not make a change at all. I actually even spoke with somebody first thing this morning who said, you know, the last time we changed our CRM system, there was a lot of information that got lost. Our notes didn't transfer. This didn't happen. That didn't happen. So you want to make sure that you work with a vendor who can guarantee that your data is going to migrate over, that you're working with somebody who can alleviate those fears. Just like your prospects have fears in moving into a senior living community, we find that the fears from our potential customers revolve around that data migration piece. So you want to make sure that as you're searching for a new system, that you talk about that and you have that conversation up front before you sign a contract with whoever you're going to go with. The next part of the project that that makes for a good user adoption is a user-friendly configuration. Senior living marketing and salespeople are too busy to spend a lot of time working in their CRM trying to figure out where to input information. You want to deliver a system to them that makes them feel like it's easy to use, despite the fact that you're asking them to collect information, right? A lot of times in our past, all we wanted to do was have that conversation, build the relationship, and take our notes. And that's all that the salespeople we really cared about, right? But we need more. We need more today in our digital world. So we want to create a user-friendly configuration that is easy to use, that incorporates your culture. And oftentimes, I know with Continuum, we can tailor things like your layouts, your workflows, your data fields. We can tailor them to a specific user, a role, or a community. So what happens then is that that daily interaction, the UI, the user interface, or the experience that that person is having, that is highly customized and tailored to them so they can focus on only what they need to do to get their job done. They don't need to scroll through a ton of data fields that are completely meaningless to them and makes them not want to use the system. So incorporating your culture, making sure that the data fields that you need and want exist in the system and pulling out the ones that you don't, that is an important part of the user experience. Training, right? One of the other things that I hear a lot is about the training or clear lack thereof from older systems and people who are transitioning into new systems, which are definitely more robust. They're very different from legacy systems of the past because they're more data driven. You know, training was lacking. And so now training needs to become a very big focus of how to adopt and use the new CRM. So you can't just go through the project, turn it on and say, here you go, have at it, enjoy. So we have to involve a very robust training structure. And what we do in order to ensure high user adoption is we appeal to all learning styles. And we're going to talk about in the next few slides, how do you appeal to those learning styles? What is role-based training about? Training sales process and providing support after the project is over. So appealing to the learning styles. There are 4 defined learning styles that everybody has. Somebody has a blend of a couple, but there's different learning styles that we lean towards. Visual, where you want to see something. Audible, where you learn best by listening. Verbal, where you can either talk about something or write it down. And kinesthetic, where you get your hands on and you get to practice, right? So with Continuum, we have supported all of these learning styles through the multifaceted learning onboarding process that we provide to all of our clients. So by doing this, you learn the system faster and you're going to get higher user adoption. So as you're learning your new system, you want to make sure you appeal to the people who are visual. So for example, our online learning center has short video tutorials that show you how to do something. Our live online training gives you the opportunity to listen to somebody and watch them do something, as well as then practice it yourself. And then our knowledge base gives you the opportunity to print out or read instructions on how to do something in the system, thereby giving everybody and every learning style something that they need in order to be able to grasp new concepts with the system. Role-based training. So a lot of times your marketing person isn't necessarily going to want to sit in on the training that involves entering new leads and recording activities. By having different role-based trainings that are focused on what each one of those functions are in your organization, it will give each person a very tailored approach to understanding how they do what they do on a daily basis without having to sit through a whole lot of trainings that they feel are irrelevant to them and their job. We don't ever want to make people feel like they're wasting their time. So having sales counselor trainings, right, where they're focused on how do I get in today, see what I have to do for the day, record my activities, make my phone calls, look at my previous notes. So we want to make sure that the sales counselor's training is tailored specifically to what they do. Sales supports training, they may be more focused on running reports, using the Word add-in in order to utilize that integration for communications in writing and sending letters. Your marketing people may be more interested in understanding how the events module runs, so that way they can track all of their campaigns and get reports on new leads and inquiry sources and return on investment. And then your CRM administrator, they're going to have a training just of their own on how do they make changes themselves to the new system, so that way you can wholly own and really feel good about supporting yourself with your new CRM. So poll question number 2. Does your organization currently follow a defined sales process? So Paul is going to open the poll.
Yeah, we have the poll open. This one's an easy one. Yes or no. So far we have 50% who have voted. I'll share results in about 10 seconds. 67% voted. All right, I'm going to close the poll and share the results. It looks like we have about 75% right now of of organizations that are currently following a defined sales process. That's good news.
That's great news. A lot of CRM systems today, including ours, follows a defined sales process. So this is in here with training because training sales process often goes in conjunction with training the CRM. With our system in particular, we will build the sales process. So you said 75% of our attendees already have a defined sales process. Well, when you buy your new CRM, you have to decide for yourselves, am I going to go with a CRM that will incorporate the process that I've already constructed for my team, that I've already trained them, and that they're already used to using? Or am I going to select a CRM where they're going to have to learn something new, a new sales process? So what we say is that if you choose a CRM that helps you incorporate your culture and your sales process into the system, you're going to have higher user adoption. What that does is it incorporates your terminology. It makes the CRM more familiar to your users right out the gate, and from the beginning, they're going to see familiar terms, familiar activities that they're supposed to be doing, maybe familiar methodologies that you're incorporating into their activities. So oftentimes what we are doing is we are training and reaffirming that sales process you already have. But if you don't have one, we can certainly suggest one to you that is relational in nature. So that way you can, in your CRM, clearly see where your prospects are in that buyer's journey. So the reason why training the process matters is because, as you can see from this slide right here, you have some active sales engagement steps, right? They go from inquiry to move-in. You have maybe some resident management steps where you're moving them out, you're doing in-house transfers. And then you have some waiting steps, right? People who aren't ready or people who are on your wait list. And what you need to be able to do is navigate them through the sales process and understand how this works in your CRM. Also, CRM today, especially Continuum, is really focused on purposeful engagement. Years ago, we would get into our CRM systems, we would make phone calls, we'd have a very subjective hot, warm, cold mentality, or talk about you know, a status code that we would assign to our prospects. Those are very subjective and very rear view approach. I know probably about a year ago, Senior Living Smart, you did a blog article about, you know, the rear view approach and forward thinking engagement. And so Continuum supports this forward thinking by requiring you to plan for your next activity, plan for your next engagement with your prospective resident. This is as a result, this reinforces that consultative sell, or it reinforces that sales process that you've built in. And again, this incorporates your process and your language, so it's easy for your salespeople to follow and pick up. Ongoing support is another big part of user adoption and engagement in the CRM. And what we find is providing that ongoing support to all of our customers really increases the user adoption. So as we saw in a couple slides ago, we support this through knowledge base, FAQs. You always have access to your online learning centers with the videos and the tutorials. We have an online support desk, so those are important. You want to make sure that you're working with a vendor that your people or a centralized point person can reach out and get support whenever they need it. Phone support is big. I know a lot of companies don't do that anymore, but we want you to understand that there's a human being behind this software, and we understand, you know, your day is too busy to have to sit around and maybe wait days for somebody to get back to you via a support ticket. Not saying that we don't do that. You know, our support ticket, very responsive, but I have heard of other people who've told me that they have to wait sometimes 2, 3, 4 days before their support tickets from other companies are responded to. Remote sessions and technical configuration support. So when you're in this new system, if you're having a technical problem, we can remote into your computer and help you fix it right away. Understanding and knowing that you have people supporting you on the back end is going to make you feel a lot better going forward with a CRM and selecting that vendor. So poll question number 3, and we're kind of getting down to the last few minutes of our time together here. Do you feel like your team leverages all of the functionality of your current CRM? So Paul, if you want to go ahead and open up the poll and get us the results, we can do that one as well.
Okay, and we have about 50% voted, so we'll give it another 10 seconds here. All right. Wow, this is important. So I'm going to share results real quick. It's like 75% do not feel like they're currently leveraging all of the functionality.
Yeah. That is a big part of user adoption, right? So if you have good user adoption and good onboarding and training and continued support, so all of those things layer together to result in leveraging the technology. And when you feel like you've had that support and that ongoing reinforcement from your management and that reinforcement and contact with your CRM vendor, you're going to then feel better about leveraging functionality in your CRM that maybe you wouldn't leverage before. Things like the workflows, right? So I'm going to go through the next few slides are going to show you how Continuum helps you leverage the technology into their system and why that's important. So we're going to talk about, custom workflows, layouts, integrations, email marketing, and readiness scoring. The workflow, this ties back to that previous slide that we were talking about with the buyer's journey and the sales process. So in our system, the prospects follow your community's sales process, and each workflow step within our system represents a different stage in your buyer's journey. You can clearly see where people are in their sales process, where they're sitting in their buyer journey. You can understand if they're getting stuck in a certain area, or if you can understand how long they're sitting in a place, how quickly they move through the process. You're going to get a lot more transparency in the reporting. Leveraging the workflow is a very important part of adopting your new CRM. We also help you leverage the CRM through providing unlimited layouts and custom data fields. So this ties back to that support of the tailored experience that is given to the user or a role or a community, so that way their daily view, their daily insight into prospect records is relevant to them. If you find that you're delivering relevant information to your user, you're going to have higher user adoption. We also give a visual aid for overdue activity. One of the things that happens a lot of times in our world in senior living is that we get busy, right? And we're not focused enough on keeping up with our activities we've scheduled for ourselves. So we provide a visual red, yellow, or green indicator as to whether or not we're managing our CRM effectively for ourselves. Anything that is overdue would be red, anything yellow would be due today, and then anything green we would have scheduled for ourselves in the future. Integration. I briefly mentioned how important integration is in today's CRM world. You need to be able to have a system that has an open integration policy and can provide you with their API documentation that shows that they can and do integrate with other applications. What this does, it first eliminates any duplicate data entry. One of the biggest complaints that people have had in the past when systems don't talk to each other or integrate is that they have to enter their prospect in the CRM system, and then they have to turn around and enter the prospect in their finance or their operations system when that person decides to become a resident. They spend too much time doing that type of thing, and it lowers their motivation about their job and their motivation about putting information into the CRM. They don't find the value in doing it. The other thing integrations do is it provides visibility into and within other applications. For example, we have a bidirectional HubSpot integration where you can have that visibility into what's going on with your people on their visits to your website and the content that they're consuming from a marketing standpoint. We also offer Office application integrations that help make your lives easier, right? Outlook. Biggest complaint that I get from users outside of our system is having to copy and paste email from their Outlook into their CRM. So having that Outlook integration that integrates your calendar items, your tasks, your appointments, and forwards your email into your CRM, that is really important for user adoption. You want to provide your users the tools to simplify their work processes. Give them the Word add-in. Let them have the Word integration that will autofill forms for them. Let them use it for communications. And we also have G Suite calendar integration as well. So I know there's companies that are moving off of the Office environment and going more with a G Suite environment. So that's important to people. Web and lead capture is important to your users for high user adoption. The ability to embed a form on your contact page or any landing page to capture RSVPs for events, contact information, create new inquiries or leads, and auto-populate that information from the web into your CRM, delivering an email with an auto response on an inquiry so that they get that instantaneously, assigning that new lead to a user or a queue based on the routing rules that you come up with, and then providing an email notification of that new inquiry to your users so they can be immediately right on top of any new leads that are coming into the system. There are still CRMs out there today that do not support this, and this is a vital part of our digital world. Email marketing and tracking is also becoming vitally important in our world today. I know there's a lot of communities that use external tools like a MailChimp or a Constant Contact. Our CRM happens to have an email marketing system built directly into it. So that way you can have personalized custom emails with all of your delivery and tracking statistics built right into your CRM. All of those emails attached directly to your prospect profile, so that way you can see exactly which ones they've opened, if they've clicked through any call to action. You can use the scheduling feature to schedule them out so you can be proactive and queue up emails that you want to deliver the next day. And also the nice thing about having email marketing built into your CRM is that your marketing people can then draft multiple or unlimited templates for the use of the sales counselors so they can become better at delivering messages to prospects at the right time in the process. So if you have somebody who's never visited, you can send them an email that encourages them to visit your community. If you have somebody who just had an appointment with, you can send a drafted email that stays within your brand guidelines and messaging standards that tells them exactly the message you want them to receive after they've come for a tour. So email marketing and tracking and having those statistics is very important in having your marketing people adopt using of the CRM. And that's something else that's very important. CRMs used to just be for the salespeople. Now they're for everybody on your team. And readiness scoring tool. So in our system, we've built in an objective scoring tool based on the prospect engagement that helps drive you towards coaching your prospects, making suggestions of next steps, assisting with their understanding of senior living in your community, and hopefully driving them toward a decision. So these objective scoring tools, if you have the opportunity to include a lead scoring tool or a prospect scoring tool in your CRM, they provide a lot of transparency into the readiness of your prospects. So to recap, what would make a successful CRM user adoption? Providing top-down support, making sure that you have management involvement from the initial conversation about making the change through the training, and then reinforcing with them using it themselves. Providing a user-friendly configuration that's tailored to the role or the user or the community itself or your service line that you offer. Making sure that adequate training is supported throughout the entire process and ongoing in the future, that they have those tools available to them ongoing. So that way that your users are making sure that they're going to leverage the technology that you've given them, and you are getting the most money out of the investment that you've made. And just to kind of recap why you might want to consider Continuum CRM. The functionality does conform to your culture. We use your terminology within the system and the workflow, and our workflow prompts the user for the next steps in the buyer's journey. And that can be a workflow that we work with you to create, or you create on your own. And then a project rollout. We have very structured, defined project management, very robust and multifaceted learning resources that appeal to all of the learning styles, and your customer support ongoing after the project. Thank you, everybody, for your time today. Paul, I think we can open it up for questions now, and my contact information is here on the screen if you think you would like to get more information about Continuum CRM.
Great, thank you so much, Kristen. I think that was a wonderful overview for anyone who either is looking for a CRM and trying to figure out what that process looks like between sales and management, and then even those that might be toying with the idea of jumping ship with their current CRM that might not be delivering results for them, might not be forward thinking, and may not have any of those integrations that I think are so important with this new digital age in senior living. We do have a little bit of time left for those that haven't submitted questions yet. We do have two real quick that I wanted to pass your way, Kristen. And I know we discussed this a little bit with the sales process, and based on the poll, about 75% have a sales process, but we still have 25%, which is a pretty sizable number that don't have a sales process. And we have a user that is interested. Is that something that your team can help coach on for those that don't have a sales process? And then I'm going to take it just one step further. For those that answered yes, that do have a sales process, I know that the Continuum team, they work with those that have a defined sales process, but are there any pivot points where you guys could step in for existing sales processes and give any kind of best practices, advice, in moving forward?
Yeah, and because we do build the workflows based on the sales processes for every single customer, we have a lot of best practices that we've come up with, but also that we've learned from our own customers, right? You know, we listen to our customers. We're open to ideas from them and suggestions. So what we want to promote is a very collaborative relationship. And for those 25% who do not yet have a sales process, we can talk to you about why it's so important to adopt one and how we can help you build, even just starting out, a very simple sales process. And it begins to transition your team from that subjective, you know, oh, this person loves me and they're going to move to our community, to being able to say, this person is in this phase of their buyer's journey. This person is in that phase of the buyer's journey. So we can certainly assist with that. And also to the second point of your question, yes, one of the things that we do is if you have a sales process that you already use, that you're going to build into the Continuum CRM, we do look at that and evaluate that. And if we can make suggestions for any extra steps or any reduced steps or best practices with activities and flow, we will make those recommendations from a collaborative nature if you'd like us to.
Great, great. And another question we just had, I know we covered this a little bit with user adoption, but for those users that are, I don't want to say old school, not just pen to paper, but they kind of have their own set ways. Mm-hmm. I know we kind of covered some talking points, but those that are still struggling to learn a new system, any recommendations? I know that training usually doesn't stop with one training session. It usually takes a few for full user adoption, but any experience in working with other clients for those that are really truly struggling to get their entire team to adopt?
Yeah. And, it's funny because as an industry, we all just went through this big transition of a legacy system being phased out, right? And so a lot of people had to make that change. And there were people who had been on that system for 15, 20 years. And so it is difficult for people who have known one system and one way of doing things sometimes to make that transition. And I would say that the best way to overcome that is for the management team to support and coach right along with us with the training of the new system. And definitely acknowledging that technology today is very different than the technology from 5 or 10 years ago. It's changing all the time. So I think the best way to bring along those users who are struggling with the change is to really sit down with them one-on-one and help understand that, right? We do the same thing with our senior living prospects. It's no different, really. So as a sales counselor or a manager or marketing director, you may be sitting down with a senior living prospect who really just can't wrap their head around the thought of changing and moving out of their home and moving into your community. And what you do is you nurture them and you coach them through that process, right? Well, it's the same thing with nurturing and coaching your own team member through the change process from old technology to new technology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I actually think that was very key, what you said earlier about the top-down support from management. Really, before you go into a system blind, really having management define not just the KPIs and strategy of what they want the CRM to accomplish, but really doing kind of a backward, having all of that defined, and then working with the CRM to figure out how to fit those puzzle pieces in and where to improve from that point forward.
Yeah, that's how we try to run our projects.
Great. Well, I think that is it for questions. Thank you so much so much for your time, Kristen. I just wanted to let the attendees know we will make your slide deck available to everyone after this call, along with a recorded session. We'll be sending that out through email for anyone who wants to share with their colleagues. Any colleagues that may not have had the time to attend today, you'll be able to share that out. So yeah, once again, feel free to contact either Senior Living Smart or Kristen with any questions you might have following this webinar.
Thank you very much, Paul, and thank you everyone for attending.
Thank you, Kristen, and hope everyone has a good rest of the day.